Hello, and welcome to another edition of our Superintendent Update, our chance to talk with school administrators about the latest school news. And joining me this month is actually Assistant Superintendent Patrick Larkin. Patrick, thanks for taking some time and coming in and talking with me.
My pleasure, Rich.
So we're a little bit past the halfway mark of the month of September. Kids have been back in school for a couple weeks now. How's it been going?
I think it's been going great. Again, it's great to see classrooms back with full capacity and, buses pulling in full capacity. Certainly some new challenges this year because we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and there's a little bit more gray area too because some of the protocols, if we happen to have a case in a classroom, aren't as clear as they were last year. So working through that is challenging for us, and certainly appreciate the patience of families as well, because some of it is, each situation is unique, and we really appreciate their understanding as we work through this and try to put protocols in place that are going to be sustainable.
Now you mentioned, like you said, the full capacity, everybody's back. Is that posing, additional challenges that maybe you didn't have last year when some of the students were, remote?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is, if we do have a case of COVID in a school, and of course, our primary concern is the elementary schools because all of those kids are unvaccinated.
Right.
And the distancing, last year we knew we had at least 3 feet because numbers were smaller and about a third of our elementary kids were at home. And this year, it's a challenge to be at 3 feet with classrooms that are full, and the contact tracing goes to 6 feet. So we've had a couple of cases over the first few weeks where we've had the majority of the class go out as close contacts.
Right.
So again, that's a challenge. It kind of puts a damper on things. Luckily, everything we've heard so far is nobody's been severely sick.
Good.
So that's the good news, and we haven't seen any other members of those classes become sick to date. So we hope that continues, and that will make us feel a little bit better.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, all the kids seem to be pretty good about wearing their masks and doing the other protocols that are in place.
It stinks keeping the mask on. I know I don't like it in here right now. It's warm. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, we got the bright lights going.
When I take a breath in, it's sometimes harder to breathe. But it's, again, we're happy to put mitigation techniques to keep people safe, and our kids are great. We have no complaints about the kids.
Excellent. And I know that, it was quite a good discussion at this last school committee meeting about this program that's sort of in the works called Test and Stay.
Yeah.
So talk about, how that works and where the district is as far as getting it up and running.
So the way it works is this, if we have a case in a classroom, however many close contacts there are of that case, of that positive case, that's somebody that would be within 6 feet of that positive case for 15 minutes or more during the course of the whole day. That's not just one 15-minute spurt, but that's if you add it up.
Okay.
5 minutes here, 8 minutes there, a total of 15 minutes. They would get to test, and if they were negative, they could stay in school. And that would be done every day for 5 days is the way the protocol from the state looks. 5 days they could, so they would start their day by coming into school somewhere and getting a test. It's a 15-minute time frame for that test to be developed, the rapid test. And once the 15 minutes is up, you'd read it. If they're negative, they go to class. If they're positive, we have a bigger issue on our hands. Fortunately, we haven't seen 2 positives in the same class. It's still early, but that's, again, what do you do at that point? The first thing you would have to do is have that student go get a PCR test, not a rapid test, to confirm the positive.
Yeah, right.
But in the meantime, there's some unknowns. So that's how it would look. The problem is getting a sustainable process in place.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard from a small number of districts that have tried to undertake this, and there's been some initial challenges. I don't want to, throw anybody under the bus, but it's not an easy process to do. I talked about it at school committee.
Right.
So say Francis Wyman, where we had 1 positive case in a classroom. If we had 12 to 15 kids who were close contacts, and they're starting their day where people want to say the nurse's office. I don't think that makes sense to have a line at the nurse's office to start the day. What if we have a second case that could make 22, 24 students starting their day at
Exactly.
and wait. They have to all be tested. It can't be done simultaneously. Get the 15 minutes for the test to develop and see if it's positive or negative. So we're working through all this. We're talking to health professionals. We're talking to districts that have started this and are frustrated with how it's going. And we're hoping we can have a game plan in place sometime next week to start to talk about our update, what it might look like for us in Burlington. But
Right.
a tool that is kind of built for failure, we see Test and Stay as a great potential tool to keep more kids in school. But if the process is set up to fail, it's not really a worthwhile tool, and it's going to lead to more frustration. So we appreciate families' patience with this, and our goal is to certainly get this tool in our tool belt here in Burlington, but we're not going to do it until we're comfortable that we have a sustainable model.
Yeah, I mean, I understand like everything that's being done is, with the goal of trying to keep kids in school as much as possible. So,
Yeah.
you know, but there's no easy answers.
Last year it was a lot easier, but again, that meant more kids at home, so that's not necessarily a win-win. So we want to keep more kids in school and have processes that make sense and make elementary parents feel comfortable that their kids aren't going to be in a classroom sitting next to somebody that could get their child sick. And
Right.
again, the other thing to remember about this test and stay process, which is kind of interesting, is so based on the DPH guidelines, if you're within 6 feet of somebody, you're a close contact, you're quarantined. So the test and stay process would allow them to come to school.
Right.
But when they're not in school, they're supposed to be at home quarantining. So that's kind of a contradictory message, which is kind of interesting to kind of think about.
Right.
So I just want to put that reality out there. So we'll see how it works.
Yeah, I think the example at the school committee was, you can go to school, but you're not supposed to go to dance lessons or Cub Scouts or
Yep.
whatever else afterwards because
Yeah,
it's not
yep.
doesn't have the same necessarily, provisions in place that the schools do.
Correct.
Just two more things. Start off with transportation. How's the busing situation?
So, I was on my way to school today and listening to a news broadcast, and they were talking about the national bus driver shortage.
Yeah.
This is a problem across the country. We know in Massachusetts that the governor's deployed the National Guard to help with this problem, and I think they're going to be hitting some urban school districts, some of the larger school districts first, who are impacted the greatest by this bus driver shortage. And in Burlington, it's the same thing. The depth chart of the transportation company in regards to drivers is very limited. Typically what you'll do if you're short, you'll take somebody from the office, put them on a bus, which means there's nobody in the office if something's going
Right.
wrong during a run. So our transportation companies guaranteed us they'll have somebody in the office when the buses are running, which is great. We appreciate that. And there's no quick solution to the driver shortage. We could see some support from the National Guard a few weeks from now, depending on how that goes in the places where they're trying this first. But right now it's a struggle. Like, again, bus drivers are short, substitute teachers in school are short. We just don't have as many bodies around to help us as we typically would.
Right. And I'm guessing if somebody comes from the office onto, take over a bus route for the day, they're not familiar with the route, might take a little
It's going to take some more time.
extra time.
Yeah.
All right, last thing, the school committee on Tuesday did vote to require, as a sort of like a term of employment, that all employees in the district be vaccinated by, at least have their first dose by October 5th.
Correct.
Talk a little bit, about that decision and what are you hearing from teachers and other, employees about it?
Again, I think the decision personally to me, I want to preface, I don't live in this town. The elected officials make the final call on these types of decisions. But I think if we're working in a school with students, that we should do everything we can to keep them safe and healthy. And that means getting vaccinated if there's not a health impact for you that,
Right.
can be documented, or a religious exemption. So it makes sense to me. It's not a personal thing towards anybody that chooses not to, but
Right.
I think we have an obligation when we work with students to do whatever we can to make sure we're providing a healthy educational environment. I think, to me, that's a step in the right direction, making sure everybody has their vaccination.
Yeah. And has it been received well, or?
Again, I'm not
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't gone up to anybody and say like, how do you feel about, like,
Yeah.
nobody's come to me. I'm sure there are conversations. I have no idea, honestly, off the top of my head,
Okay.
what the percentage of unvaccinated people are. So I'm not sure. Where I know, like, the way it's supposed to work is they're supposed to have their proof of vaccination to Human Resources, or the documentation would allow them to not be vaccinated.
Right. And I know there will be discussions with the teachers union and everything going forward. So, there will be plenty of time for people to sort of make their thoughts,
Yeah.
heard. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers the major stories. I know it's been a busy week for you, so I'll let you get back to it and hopefully let you go and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Rich. I
All right.
appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.